Tonight, we hear from family members of the 3 people who went through the ice and drowned at Humboldt Lake this weekend. Also, crew members from Shania Twain's tour are sent to hospital after their bus rolls on the Trans-Canada Highway. Plus, defending Dubai. The provincial government is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a pavilion at an upcoming climate conference.
We are going to be attending, we're going to be telling the story of the most sustainable, reliable energy, food, and fuel production in the entire planet.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, November 8th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams in for Sam McKeag. Thanks for joining us. We hear tonight from the family that lost 3 loved ones in an icy lake near Humboldt over the weekend. They say it was an act of heroism. That's 38-year-old Chris Novakoski with his 7-year-old niece, Ava Novakoski. Both drowned Saturday afternoon, along with Ava's cousin, 28-year-old Joe Novakoski. Emergency crews were called to Humboldt Lake around 2 p.m. on Saturday after receiving reports that 5 people had broken through the ice. The family says the adults were trying to save Ava and her sister. While Chris, Joe, and Ava died, Ava's sister and mother were rescued. Our reporter Pratouche Dial spoke to Ava's mother Heather and Chris's widow Kristen today, and he joins me now from our Saskatoon newsroom. Pratouche, what did the women tell you about what happened?
Well, Ethan, the tragedy began at Fred Novakoski's house at Humboldt Lake. Fred's brother Chris and nephew Joe were working on a plumbing project that day, and Fred's 2 young daughters were outside. Chris's widow explains.
They always knew not to go to the lake without an adult, but we don't know why, but the girls went on the ice and their brother saw them, ran back to the house to get their mom. She immediately ran out to try and get them off to rescue them. She fell through the ice, and my husband Chris and my nephew Joe were at the plumbing project and they heard help, so they did everything and ran out without hesitation to try and save them.
I also spoke with Ava's mother Heather, who said the 2 men walked on the ice to get closer to the girls, but the ice broke beneath them. Chris, Joe, and Ava all drowned. Heather's husband grabbed life jackets and a kayak and helped pull the rest of them from the water. Kristen says her husband and Joe are heroes.
Joe and Chris, to do what they did is not out of character at all for them. They're selfless men. They are good men. Their act of heroism is truly a reflection of their character. They are extremely kind and generous men, and they loved their family. We love our family so much, and they would do anything. They would do anything for their family, and they did.
So, Pratouche, what comes next now for this family?
The family is preparing for Joe and Chris's funerals in Saskatoon this Saturday and Ava's on Thursday in Humboldt. And Kristen is, telling me that she's devastated but grateful and speechless for the support the family has received, including the GoFundMe campaigns. People have donated tens of thousands of dollars to support the families. She says she appreciates comments from people who recognize Joe and Chris were heroes. Kristen says her 7-year-old niece Ava was a bright light on earth, and for her funeral, people are being asked to wear bright colors and kids are being asked to bring a stuffed toy to cuddle with.
All right, thank you, Pratouche. The CBC's Pratouche Dial in our Saskatoon newsroom tonight. Well, the messy weather is making road conditions treacherous across Saskatchewan, and it's led to highway closures and several crashes today, including one involving more than a dozen members of Shania Twain's production crew. This tour bus rolled over on Highway 1 east of Regina near Wolseley. Shania Twain's manager has confirmed the bus was transporting some of her crew members. They were on their way to Saskatoon for the country star's Sask Health Centre concert tomorrow night. The Grenfell Fire Department was called to the scene around 7 o'clock this morning. The fire chief says his crew had to break windows and use the bus's emergency hatch to free the 13 people inside.
The bus was a double-decker bus with a sleeper unit on top. We had to cut some of that and remove some of that to get access to some of the passengers. The one lady had a broken ankle, so we had to be careful how we moved her and got her out. Most of the passengers, what I understand, are minor injuries, broken bones, cuts, bruises, but I didn't hear of any life-threatening injuries.
Twain's manager has confirmed to CBC News the singer herself was not on the bus, but members of her production crew were taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Sask Health Centre says at this point, tomorrow night's concert in Saskatoon is still going ahead. The Saskatchewan government is defending its decision to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a pavilion at an upcoming UN climate conference. Premier Scott Moe will head a delegation traveling to Dubai in a few weeks for COP28. CBC's Adam Hunter has the details.
Does the minister really want his legacy to be that he led the charge on the most expensive foreign trip in Saskatchewan's history?
Hear, hear. Premier Scott Moe approved spending $765,000 to secure a pavilion space at COP28 in Dubai. Moe and 4 government staff members are to attend the conference. In last month's throne speech, the government indicated the province would have a significant presence at COP28. The opposition says the bill is too steep.
This trade show junket is going to cost the province, the taxpayers of the province, $5,000 an hour, $61,000 per day, and close to $1 million when you factor in travel, accommodation, security, all of the things that go into this.
Young says the money spent on the pavilion would be better used to help people in Saskatchewan who are struggling to get surgery and to pay their bills. The minister responsible for trade says 40 companies that operate in the province will be in Dubai, and the pavilion gives the government a place to host meetings and promote the province.
We are going to be attending, we're going to be telling the story of the most sustainable, reliable energy, food and fuel production in the entire planet because it benefits Saskatchewan. It benefits our public, it benefits our workers. 19,000 more people working, $50 billion in export. It's working, Mr. Speaker.
The Premier and his staff will not be the only Saskatchewan delegation. Both universities, Sask Polytechnic, and representatives from the city of Regina will also travel to Dubai, including Mayor Sandra Masters, who received council's approval to go.
I think it's important for Regina specifically, and Saskatchewan and Canada overall, to be in the conversations that are important around sustainability, specifically around the things that we produce here in Regina, around energy and food and innovation, and in agriculture as well.
The head of economic development says his organization recommended that Masters attend. He says the initial estimated cost of the trip will be $25,000 for the city. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Crime rates in northern Saskatchewan are among the highest in Canada. Some communities have even declared a state of emergency this fall because of escalating violence. And while RCMP respond to crimes in the north, some First Nations are banking on community policing to make a difference. Dane Patterson takes a closer look.
As Horace Ratt drives around his home reserve, the retired Prince Albert police officer hopes getting locals out on patrol will cut down crime. Ratt will oversee a community policing program that, if approved, will employ Pelican Narrows people as safety officers. Armed with only batons, pepper spray, and handcuffs, they'll respond to less serious calls like theft or mischief to free up police resources and connect with locals.
That's one thing I want the community safety officers to do, is like build that connection, because there'll be times when they rely on you for support and vice versa.
Pelican Narrows is under a curfew, and still residents complain of almost nightly gunshots. Elizabeth Michelle approves of the community policing program. Her 16-year-old son died after being shot.
It can happen to anybody, Nobody's ever prepared to lose a child.
More crime happens here in Saskatchewan's rural north than in any other region of any other Canadian province. For every 100 people, about 68 crimes are committed, according to statistics.
The one thing that I really, really want is to end it, to end the violence.
Pelican Arrows had a community policing program. That made a difference, but it stopped a couple years later when funding dried up. And while it has worked well in other First Nations, some say it doesn't address the root causes of crime.
Every little thing that we do in the right direction for me is a positive. Like, I really want our community to be safer, and I do see it happening. It's just, unfortunately, the mental health and the drug addictions is what we're bad. That's the biggest battle we have right now.
That concern was also shared by residents and RCMP at a recent public meeting in Pelican Narrows. There were calls for detox beds and a wellness center. Rat says meth has become a huge problem, and he wants to help people overcome their addiction while making the community safer. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Pelican Narrows.
Well, many people are wearing a beaded poppy today to pay tribute to Indigenous veterans. That's because today is National Indigenous Veterans Day. About 24 people gathered in Batoche this morning for a private ceremony at the National Métis Veterans Memorial Monument. They laid wreaths, said prayers, and sang honor songs. The National Monument has more than 5,000 names engraved on it.
I have begun to feel, yes, some pride in having served in the armed forces, and that there are many, many others who have not had any recognition at all.
About 1,200 Métis people from... And the annual service of remembrance was held at the provincial legislature this morning. Politicians, dignitaries, and members of the public were in attendance for the service, which featured the playing of The Last Post and 2 minutes of silence, as well as a singing of the poem In Flanders Fields by Carrot River Valley MLA Fred Bradshaw, whose sister arranged the music. Wreaths were also laid in the legislature rotunda and at the Saskatchewan War Memorial outside. Remembrance Day is officially marked Saturday with services across the province. Well, after several days of cloud cover in our province, the sun came out today, and boy, did it ever in Saskatoon. And that made for a nice day to take a walk along the river, especially with the still mostly clear sidewalks and paths. So is the sun here to stay? Meteorologist John Sauter has the answers for us when we come back.
This weather update is brought to you by Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Well, it was sure nice to see some sunshine today in Regina and much of the province, but a little windy there, as you can see our tower cam shaking around a bit. And it was especially nice after that winter wallop yesterday. Meteorologist John Sauter joins us now for a look at the forecast. John?
Well, thanks, Ethan. Yeah, it sure has been a wild couple of days of weather here across southern Saskatchewan, with especially with yesterday's snow. So I thought I'd show you some snowfall amounts that were gathered by spotters from the CocoRaws network. And Regina seems to be hit the hardest with about 16.5 centimeters of snow to the southeast of here, almost 14, a little bit less to the north and to the west, but some of that fell as rain. This is just the accumulating snow. We had rain on top of those amounts. And this afternoon, conditions are a little bit better. Up around Saskatoon, we're still seeing some flurries, periods of snow, also in the southwest, although that is weakening. And some of this right along the international border has been rain showers, but a decent amount of sunshine here this afternoon in the Regina area. This is what Futurecast looks like, and there's the low that's causing all the fuss. It's now dropping more accumulating snow across southern Manitoba tonight and through the day tomorrow, but it continues to move off to the east finally, and what we're left with here in Saskatchewan is a little bit of snow north of Saskatoon in the morning hours. That dissipates, and as we get into Friday, we start to see a lot more sun, maybe not in the morning, but certainly on into the later part of the day. All right, snowfall forecast. Not all that impressive over the next little while, 2 to maybe 3 centimeters, as is the case in Prince Albert. Some of this snow in Yorkton tomorrow could be mixed with some freezing drizzle, adding to the problems on highways. But if you're not quite ready for the onslaught of winter just yet, well, look at the upper level atmosphere, because this upper ridge in the west is building into the eastern prairies and will provide us with enough warmth to really melt a lot of what's on the ground now. So for tonight, some more snow around Yorkton, another 2 to 4 centimeters. The rest of us just under a partly cloudy sky, -3 to -5 through Saskatoon, Kindersley, and Swift Current, and then up to the north for the night tonight. We're looking at just a chance of flurries in Prince Albert, but a couple more centimeters around La Ronge and just a chance of flurries tomorrow. So highs around -2. Lots of cloud around still. Prince Albert at 0. Sunny -1 in Kindersley, and mostly cloudy in Swift Current, but we'll start to see some sunny breaks, I think, on into the afternoon, and a cloudy -1 in Regina. Flurries mixed with some freezing drizzle possible in the afternoon around Yorkton. But check out these long-range temperatures as we work our way into the weekend. Very little chance of precipitation and some 4s and 5s showing up early next week in Regina. Saskatoon, we're looking at 5 degrees in the sunshine on Saturday, and then Sunday at 7, and then 6s and 7s to start off next week. So, Ethan, a lot of what's on the ground as far as snow is concerned could melt early next week.
Well, there are plenty of stories about porch pirates, people who scoop up parcels delivered to homes. But the bold culprit in this case had everyone talking. A Florida family's food order made it to the house in Orlando, courtesy of a delivery person who even took a picture as proof. And then the thief pounced. A bear was caught on an exterior camera grabbing the package and sauntering away. It was so unexpected the family ended up on the front porch repeatedly saying, "The bear took the food," in Spanish. We'll be back after the break.
When it comes to your news, you want up-to-the-minute access. Anytime, anywhere. Get the facts straight from the source. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca for news you can trust.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and several other members of Parliament are calling out anti-Semitism. There's been an increase in the number of high-profile threats against Jewish people and institutions across Canada since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. CBC's Kate McKenna has more.
Canada's Prime Minister with a dire warning.
We're seeing right now a rise in anti-Semitism that is terrifying. This is not who we are as Canadians. This is something that is not acceptable in Canada, period.
His comments follow multiple reports of threats against Jewish people and institutions. Montreal police are investigating the remnants of Molotov cocktails at a West Island synagogue and a nearby Jewish community center.
We just had a firebombing at the Beth Tikva synagogue where I grew up in Dollar des Ormeaux, and it is not something that we could take lightly. It is really important that police need to crack down now.
Quebec lawmakers are also calling for a police investigation into comments made by this controversial imam, Adil Sharkawi. He made a speech calling for the extermination of Zionist aggressors.
From my perspective, they seem to have crossed the line and gone into criminal speech, hate speech. I've never seen a time when Jewish Canadians have felt as scared, as angry, as frustrated in a country that we've been part of since before Confederation existed.
This is a terrible time in our history. The Jewish community is rightfully scared, and I never thought in my lifetime I'd see anti-Semitism like this in our streets.
Jewish advocacy organizations say anti-Semitism was on the rise before the war between Israel and Hamas, but things are getting worse.
What we see today, as we saw in the West Island, is the continued deterioration of the conditions against the Jewish community.
The federal government pledged an additional $5 million this week. It's for communities that could be targets of hate-motivated attacks. They're able to apply for funding and do things like hire temporary private security. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
And the Prime Minister has also repeated Ottawa's call for a humanitarian pause in Gaza to help Canadians get out and aid in.
A humanitarian pause is going to allow all the hostages to be released, allow us to continue doing the work of getting all foreign nationals out of Gaza. We got 75 of 80 Canadians out yesterday, which is solid progress, but there is so much more to do. And a pause long enough to start not just getting aid in, but getting resources and medication and supports while we begin doing the work of de-escalating the situation.
Well, after a much brighter sky today in Regina, the clouds will start to build back in again as we head into the night tonight. Midnight temperature around -2, just partly cloudy, but the winds are still up. Northwest 25 gusting to 40. By 9 in the morning, just at the end of the commute, we are mainly cloudy and at -3. Northwest winds at 20 to 30. In Saskatoon, again, clouds will build back in the overnight period. 0, mainly cloudy and gusty, 25 to 40 out of the northwest by midnight. First thing in the morning, we are mainly cloudy at -2 and northwest winds start to relax just a little bit.
All right. Thank you very much, John. And finally, people in Regina came together over the weekend to celebrate Navratri, a 9-day annual Hindu festival to honor the triumph of good over evil. Around 2,000 people attended this year's festival, and many participated in Garba, a traditional dance regional to the Indian state of Gujarat.
Navratri was a festival that occurred a few weeks ago. But since you can't really dance here for 9 days straight, we're doing it on different weekends. We wear our traditional clothes and we dance with friends all night. It just signifies my culture, my upbringing, my childhood, and just the Indianness in me. What's special about today is there's a really prominent singer that is famous for singing songs that are suitable for Navratri. She is here today, and so everyone is really excited.
એટલે આપણા લોકો જ્યાં જ્યાં વસે છે ત્યાં આપણી સંસ્કૃતિને આપણા કલ્ચરને એ લોકોએ જીવતું રાખ્યું છે અને સ્પેશિયલી રજાઈનાના ગરબા લવર્સ મળીને મને ખૂબ જ સારું લાગ્યું. એ લોકો એટલા જ રિસ્પોન્સિવ છે અને કહેવાય ને કે આર્ટિસ્ટને રિસ્પેક્ટ કરે છે, મ્યુઝિકની રિસ્પેક્ટ કરે છે. એ લોકોની આંખોમાં એમના એક્શનમાં દેખાય છે. એટલે થેન્ક યુ રજાઈના ફોર ઓલ યોર લવ એન્ડ સપોર્ટ.
Like just preparing for it, getting dressed in our cultural dresses and coming here, meeting all the people, being able to talk in our mother tongue, I would say, just gives us a sense of hope.
So this one, this Shania, we call in Gujarati that is Shania and the blouse, and then there are some mirror work done, and yeah, so the attire is usually find in villages.
My parents love it that we have the chance to celebrate home away from home. I love the Gujarati music.
I would say it's more of a religious event than a cultural thing. We are celebrating God in 9 different forms, celebrating 9 different things she did for us.
I really just play some games with my friends and then do some garba with my family.
Our roots are originally back in India, yeah? So that's how we somehow try to connect Canada and India together, and it helps community as well as the country where we live.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head over to cbc.ca/sask, subscribe to our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. John and I will be back with more local news and weather at 11. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Have a great night.